Good morning. We're learning the Daf Maseches Eruvin, page 45, and we're learning the fourth chapter. The name of the chapter is Misha Itziu, and we'll start from the top. But now, Rabbi Lezer Imer Shtayim Yikonis. If one left his Techum area with legal permission, and there's only 2 amis that he left, he's allowed to enter back the Tchum. If he went out 3 amis, he cannot go back anymore. That's where we ended off yesterday. The Gemara explains Rabbi Lezer's opinion. Why does it say that you can come back with 2 but not with 3? Why specifically 2 amis and not 3? Rabbi Lezer is following his own opinion, in which he has stated that the 4 amis granted to one who lives his tchum are measured with him in middle of them, at the center of these 4 amis, with 2 amis to every side of him. And now the 4 amis granted him by the rabbis, which according to Rabbi Lezer allows him 2 amis from himself to the original tchum area. Keman de mivlon damu are a kind to having overlapped. Rabbi Lezer said that he may re-enter his original tchum. Al ma'avlas tchum milsi. We see from this that the overlap of tchum areas is legally recognized principle, even though the second tchum was acquired after the Shabbos began. So the point over here is, you have 4 amis that you acquired. Your like personal space is 4 amis, in terms of Shabbos, of what you can walk around if you're outside of your tchum. So the Gemara wants to say, according to Rabbi Lezer, that if you pass the tchum, so assuming this is the tchum, right? So this line is the tchum. So he walked out of the tchum. He walked
more than 2 amas out.
2 amas out. So he says, if you have 3 amas, he can't go. So the Gemara says, 1 second. What happened? What about the 4 amas that he has? The circumference of 4 amas already.
Right.
Is it 4 amas and then another 2?
I got you.
So he says.
So that's the 3 that he said in the first place.
So the Gemara says, no. Gemara tells the question, at the center of these 4 amas, take the center of the 4 amas.
Right. Okay, I got it.
With 2 amas to every side of him.
So then.
And then the 4 amas granted to him by the rabbis, which according to Rabbi Lezer allows him 2 amas from himself to the original area, are kind to having overlapped. Rabbi Lezer says he may re-enter his original tchum area. So really, the Gemara is continuing with the attempt to prove that avlas tchumin, that the concept of tchum overlapped each other, is the old tchum, the new tchum, is miltai, which means is a legally recognized principle. That's what the Gemara is trying to prove. From what Rabbi Lezer said, you challenge the master Rava. The majority opinion indeed grants no significance to such an overlap. Amar le ein, yes. The Shemiya li minei lemar, because I heard from the master Rabbi himself. Ad kan le pligi Rabbon le Rabbi Lezer dvar reshus. When did they argue with Rabbi Lezer about discretionary matters, where the person left his original tchum area to do something that was not required? It's not a mitzvah. It was not required of him as a mitzvah. Avalid va mitzvah moitulei. But if he left in connection with a mitzvah matter, they agree with Rabbi Lezer that the convergence of his 4 amas with his original tchum allows him to return to it. Since our Mishnah deals with just such a case, Abaye's proof is justified. Remember, we spoke about this is a case of someone goes to testify for the new moon, the birth of the new moon, or someone is
for
going
a or a wedding.
No, the example was, I think it's the next thing is that someone goes to save someone. All those who live to rescue may return to their places. This phrase implies that as long as he left on a mission of rescue, he may return to his original tchum area, no matter how far away it may be. So a lot like today, if somebody goes out and maybe like he's a Tzala member or something like that, their excuse that they come back with the car is that they need to make themselves available
for the next one,
for the next call, if they would have another call.
Right, you take them to the hospital, you got to go back. Otherwise, you're out of commission.
Well, if it's God forbid someone from your family, and even though you wanted to go back, you can't go back because there's no halachically, you have no justification of going back.
Yeah. No, but I'm saying if you're in Hatzalah, you take. If you
drive your wife to give birth in the hospital on Shabbos,
then you're stuck there for the rest of Shabbos.
Yeah, it says you can, let's say you can walk back. You're allowed to walk back, in the case of like if you're in one tchum, one area.
Yeah.
But you're not allowed to drive back because what is the justification for driving back?
Yeah. But if you're going to Boca Regional, you walk back.
But if you're in a Tzala member said maybe I'll have another call. And if you're allowed to shut off the car, it's a whole.
Yeah, all right. We had issues with this in the past, but I'm not worried.
So the Gemara says, "Afilu tuva ve'omot reisha pama v'tuloi." It says, does this mean that he may return, the guy that goes to rescue, he may return even more than 2,000 amas from the original tchum area? Ve'omot reisha pama v'tuloi. You said in the first part of the Mishnah, 2,000 amas, and no more. Why are you making such a general statement? Sounds like he can walk as much as he wants. They may return to their place with the weapons, even though they carry weapons, and the carry weapons are no longer needed. On the Shabbos, however, they're restricted to the 2,000 amma limit indicated in the previous section of this Mishnah. My question. Now, what was the difficulty in the first place? Perhaps going to rescue is treated differently from other types of permissible excursions from the Tichum. A rescuer may be pursued by hostile forces and should therefore not be restricted to 2,000 amas.
Right, well, nefesh.
Right. If there is a difficulty, this is the difficulty that led Rav Yehuda to interpret the Mishnah as he did it. Originally, the witnesses who came to testify about sighting the new moon, they saw the new moon, did not move from there. They stayed there. They made it to the courtyard and they stayed there all day long. Comes Rabbi Gamliel, and Rabbi Gamliel wanted to make it comfortable for people.
Right.
Remember the Gemara that we learned? I believe it was Saito, that they made a big feast for them.
Yeah.
To encourage people to come and testify. Otherwise, the guy lives far away. He says, what do I need this trouble now?
Right.
Come, go through interrogations, and then
you can't go anywhere. You got to sit there the whole day.
So, Iskin Rabbi Gamliel Azorkin Sheyesh Alpayim Amma L'chol Ruach. They have 2,000 amas to walk around for each direction. Not just that, even a midwife who comes to aid in a delivery, she's called in Aramaic chachama, a wise woman,
Right.
midwife. One who comes to rescue people from an attacking army, or from a flooding river, or from a collapsed building, or from a fire. Arei and Kan Sha'ir, they are all treated like the people of the city. And they have the right to walk 2,000 amos in every direction. The Gemara says, "V'suloi," that's it. Only 2,000. You just said that you can come, you go as much as you can, as much as you want. Those who come back from war or come back from a rescue mission. They may return to their place with their weapon. Originally, they would have their weapons in the house close to the chayma, to the wall. The walls of the city. The enemy spotted them and pursued them. The Jews entered the house to take their weapons. The enemy entered after them. They crushed one another and killed one another from the panic of running into the house to get their weapon. They killed each other more than what they were killed by the enemies.
That happens with the Muslims in the Mecca. They do that all the time.
Or it could happen in a situation where there is
in the theater,
any kind of crowded place.
Right.
Where
panic starts, you're in trouble.
Panic starts, and you're running, like you have to be opposite of what the herd is doing.
Right.
Because if you just follow the herd,
you're going to get crushed.
You possibly get crushed, unless you really be a big person. But
yeah, and then you're crushing other people.
Like in Black Friday, people are.
Oh, that movie. Yeah.
No, Black Friday, where people go to Walmart and standing by the door.
This year you don't have to worry.
And just crushing each other.
That's a disgusting.
So this is what happened.
The whole Black Friday is a rip-off, but we won't go there.
Rav Nachum v'Yitzchak Gomer lo'ikasha kan shenitzchu Yisrael l'sumu seilo. Kan shenitzchu museilo mesatzmon. Where Israel, the Jews, was victorious over the four nations, there's no need to permit them more than 2,000 ams. But where the nations are, God forbid, victorious,
then you got trouble.
Where the four nations were victorious over themselves, if the Jews are restricted by 2,000 amos, they may be killed by the victorious enemy. In such a case, our Mishnah says they may return to their places, no matter how far they are. Rav said in the name of Rav, if Gentiles besieged an Israelite city, they surrounded the city, you may not go out against them with the weapons, nor may they violate the Shabbos because of them. This was taught in another Baisa. This rule has also been taught in a Baisa. Gentiles besieged. What did we say before, that we're not going out with weapons? If they come, for example, they come because they want to collect money.
Yeah.
That's why they made the siege.
Yeah. Well, we know what Rambam said.
But they came over a matter of lives. The threat was to the lives of the people. They may go out against them with the weapons and may violate the Shabbos because of them.
Ah, here comes the part the Rambam said.
David is asking if it's obvious. I think it's not so obvious when the Mishnah tells you shouldn't take your weapons. So take your weapons and go. It is obvious, right? Because you think it's pikuach nefesh. But suddenly we see that there is what happened if they just come because of money?
Yeah.
And it's not pikuach nefesh?
Well, wait, just read a few more psukim. It'll be clear to him.
Yeah, so it says, Ela aliskei tevin v'kash. Now, but if they come only over a matter of straw and stubble, which is similarly minor things,
Right.
which are not worth much money, we may go out against them with their weapons, and violate the Shabbos because of them. So the first baisa seems like contradicting the second baisa.
Because one thing can lead to the other. So if
No, but the question is on the baisa that tells us that you don't take your weapon. The baisa that tells you to take the weapon, we understand
clear.
because it's taking precautionary measure.
Yeah.
Even though they come for straw and stubble, they might start a war with you.
Yeah.
But how come the baisa tells us if they come for monetary situations,
All right,
we don't take the weapons?
Let's see how the Gemara resolves it.
Bavel is like a city close by the border. V'targuma, and the term Babylon means, in this context, Nahado, the city of Nahado. Nahado, a leading Jewish center, may be defended on the Shabbos against even a raid to seize property to seize property, because Nahado is the gateway to the Jewish settlement of Babylonia.
Right.
So I guess if you conquered Nahado,
You get it. Well, that was the same Yericho. That was the.
it opens the door for you
Right.
for Babylonia.
That was the argument about not giving away Yericho.
טוב, שרבי דסתרד מן בירי, מה יכתיב יגידו דוד להם ראינו פלישתים ללחום בקהילה או ועם השייסים וסגרונס. So they came to David HaMelech and they told him that the Plishtim are waging war against Keilah. And they're now, what do? And they are
Pillaging
the thresh floor. So they're destroying it. Tano, Keilah was a city close by the border. So they came initially for only silly things, small things, straw and stubble. And they're pillaging the threshing floor. But they're not harming anyone. David asked Hashem, should I go? And should I smite them? Vayemer Hashem el David, lech veikiso es aplishtim v'yishais es kila. So Hashem says to David, go and smite the Plishtim and save Kehila or Kehila. In Hebrew, it's Keilah. So, my Kamibala, what is David? Why did David ask Hashem? If it's so obvious, if you say that he wants to know if it's permitted or forbidden, so then why didn't he ask the Beis Din? The Beis Din of Shmuel was there. So rather, his question was not him to go or not to go. To go to war was obvious to him. but he wanted to know if he will be successful or not. Because the pasuk says afterwards, and you will save Keilah. You will succeed in defending the enemy. Shmamina will learn from this that this indeed was the point of David's inquiry. Someone who sat down to rest while on a journey. Ve'omad, and he stood up. The Shabbos had already begun. Ve'ro arei zeh somuch li. So we have a guy sat down to rest while on a journey without realizing that he was within the tchum of a nearby city. Ve'omad, and when he stood up, the Shabbos had already begun. And he saw that he was near a city within its tchum. Clearly, he realized that this earlier, if he would have known earlier, he would not sit down. Nevertheless, since he had not been, wasn't conscious, it wasn't his intention at the time the Shabbos began. He should not enter the city. Divrei Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Yehuda says he should go into the town. Like you see in the diagram, I guess, where it stopped. It happened that Rabbi Tarfon entered the city and assumed the Techum of the city's resident without prior intent to do so. Rabbi Tarfon was traveling, and suddenly it was getting dark. And he spent the night outside the city, not realizing it was nearby. In the morning, shepherds found him. Rabbi, the city is here. Enter it. He went to the study hall, to the yeshiva, expounded the entire Torah, the entire day, he taught Torah. So this incident demonstrates Rabbi Tarfon held that a person assumes the tchum if the city, even when he was unaware of its proximity. It wasn't his intention. Is there any proof from that incident? Shema belibo. Perhaps Rabbi Tarfon realized that he was within the city's tchum and consciously designated as his resident before the Shabbos. Or perhaps the study hall was within his tchum, within 2,000 amis of his location on the road. Somebody sleeps, he doesn't know it's dark. Has 2,000 each direction. These are the words of Yochanan ben Nuri. He only has 4 amis. 4 amis was measured with him in the middle of them, in any direction he chooses. However, Rabbi Yehuda agrees that if he chose for himself 4 amis in one direction, that he cannot be tracked and choose different direction. Or Yishnaim, if there were 2 people, each restricted to a 4 am area. Some of the amis of one overlap the amis of the other. So they may bring their food and eat it in the middle, the overlapping area, like you see in the diagram. One should not give each other. They should not share. If there was 3 people and one guy's in the middle, and he's permitted to bring food and eat with either of them, and they are permitted to bring food and eat with them. But the guys that are outside, the guys that are on the two sides, the A and C, are not allowed. That's the chitzonim. Shnayim hachitzonim asum zeh. Amar b'Shimon. B'Shimon says, Lama dover dem. To what is this case of tchum, of the tchum law, comparable? L'sholosh chatzeros apsucha zu lezu. To three chatzeros which open to one another. Ufsuchas reshus harabim, and they're open to a public domain. You can see in the diagram. They're open to each other, but they're also open to reshus harabim. If two other chatzeros each joined in an eruv with the middle of chotzer, he muter simon. If the middle chotzer is permitted with them, the outer chatzeros, and they, the resident of the outer chatzeros, are permitted with it to carry from their houses into the middle chotzer. But the two outer chatzeros are prohibited with each other to carry from a house of one outer chotzer into the other outer chotzer. It's like the guy who's in the middle, he can enjoy both sides, but they cannot. What does the mean of Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri hold? Ownerless objects acquire a Shabbos residence and may not be moved beyond the tchum. Ownerless objects, they acquire their tchum wherever you find them. That's their place. They need to stay there till the end of Shabbos. If so, a sleeping person could also acquire the Shabbos residence from which to measure a tchum. It would have been proper. And it would have been proper if Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri and the sages to state their disagreement in the case of ownerless object. However, the reason they stated the disagreement in the case of a sleeping person was to inform you the extent of the sages' view that intent is necessary to acquire a tchum. Although it is possible to say, since a person who is awake acquires one, since a person who is awake acquires one, Yoshin namikono, a sleeping person also acquires one. Kamashman deloy. Mishnah informs us not to differentiate between them. In both cases, the sages hold that in the absence of conscious intent to acquire the Shabbos residence, no acquisition is taking place. That's one thought, or dilma, or perhaps Kasav Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri be'alma. Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri holds in general, Chevtze Efker and Kohen Shviso, ownerless object do not acquire the Shabbos residence, from which to measure a tchum, and here is the reason that Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri holds that a sleeping person acquires a Shabbos residence from which to measure a tchum. Oil v'neo kono, since a person who is awake acquires a Shabbos residence. Yoshin nami kono, so a sleeping person also acquires one. Amar Rav Yosef Tashma Ageshom showed Yom Tov, rain that fell before Yom Tov, and the water was still ownerless when Yom Tov began. Yesh lanu payam ruach, has a fixed techum of 2,000 amis in each direction. But Yom Tov, if the rain fell on Yom Tov, it is treated like the feet. It has the techum, or anyone who claims it. It is clear from this brisa that first ruling that ownerless objects do acquire Shabbos residence or Yom Tov residence in this case, which limits them to their own techum. Going back to the first point of suggesting that ownerless object acquire a Shabbos residence, Amani, it's opinion of Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan, Ela Yoma, We say no, that they do not acquire, that ownerless objects do not acquire a Shabbos residence Amani, who is Rabbi Yochanan. It doesn't reflect the opinion of the Rabbi Yochanan and nor the opinion of the rabbis. Rav Safra said to Abai, perhaps we are dealing in this paisa with rain that fell near a city. And the people of the city are counting on it, had intentions then of taking the water for their use. Therefore, the water receives the Techum limits of the city's resident. If this is so, there is no proof from this paisa that ownerless object in general acquire the Shabbos resident. That none, you should not think to explain the paisa in this manner, because there is another compelling reason to assume that Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri holds ownerless object acquire a Shabbos resident. Now in Burish Yochi, a well belonging to an individual, Kiragli Yochid, is treated like the feet of that individual, even if another person drew water from it. And water drawn from a well belonging jointly to the people of the city, Kiragli is treated like the feet of the residents of that city. And if the water drawn from the well that was prepared for the use of Babylonian travelers, Kiragle Amemale, are treated like the feet of the person who draws the water. Since the water in these roadside wells is ownerless at the start of the Shabbos, it does not have a tchum of its own, and therefore assumes the tchum of whoever claims it. A well prepared for the tribes traveling to Eretz Yisrael has 2,000 ames in each direction. We see from this that the ownerless water has its own residence and tchum limit. So the Mishnah and the Brisa contradict each other in regard to whether ownerless water acquires its own residence. Rather, do we not learn from this? One is the opinion of Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, and one is the opinion of the rabbis. Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri said that ownerless objects acquire residence, while the rabbis said that ownerless objects do not acquire residence and tchum of their own. So it is therefore clear that Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri must hold that ownerless objects acquire a residence and tchum, as Rav Yosef stated. Rav Yosef said, when Abai came before Rav Yosef, this is what Rav Safra said to refute this your proof. And this is what I answered him in your defense. Rav Yosef said to Abai, why did you not prove it to him from the original Baisa itself? If you think that the Baisa is referring to rain, which fell near a city, which is assigned the tchum of the city, because of the inhabitants' intention to use it, can this ruling properly be expressed as the water has tchum of 2,000 amas in each direction, which implies that it has a tchum of its own? This ruling should have been expressed as the water is treated like the feet of the people of that city. Since the tchum was due to their eventual ownership. Therefore, even from that first bais, it is clear that ownerless objects acquire their own residence, according to Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, as Rabbi Yosef proved above. If the rain fell on Yom Tov, so that it did not have a residence at the start of Yom Tov, it is treated like the feet of anyone who eventually owns it. Why does this water receive the Tuchum area now? The rainwater should have acquired its residence in the ocean, where it was at the start of Yom Tov. And since it is now outside its Tuchum, it should be restricted to 4 amas. Shall we say that the Brisa does not follow the opinion of Rabbi Lezer? For if it follows the opinion of Rabbi Lezer, Rabbi Lezer stated, the entire world drinks the water of the ocean, which evaporate and then fall as rain. According to him, rain which falls on Shabbos or Yom Tov should be limited to 4 amas. Here, in the Brisa, we are dealing with rain which fell from clouds that had already gathered before Yom Tov. Since the water in them had already evaporated from the ocean before Yom Tov began, it did not acquire residence in the ocean and consequently is now beyond its Techum. Perhaps those clouds that were in the sky before Yom Tov have moved away, and these clouds from which the rain fell on Yom Tov are different ones which formed on Yom Tov. We should therefore limit the rain to 4 amas because of the possibility that this water was in the ocean at the start of Yom Tov. The Islu Simona Begavayu says they have a distinct formation through which they can be identified as the ones which hung overhead before Yom Tov. Ibai Sema, or if you prefer say, Havi Sofek the Divreim, this is an uncertainty regarding a rabbinic law. V'Sofek the Divreim law. When you have uncertainties regarding rabbinic law, you have to Sofek the Rabbanon Lekula. Therefore, as long as it becomes overcast before Yom Tov, it may be assumed that the rain which falls on Yom Tov is from those clouds. Let the water acquire residence in the clouds. Should it be concluded from this that the Techum laws do not apply above the height of the 10 Tfachim? For if the Techum law, if the Techum laws applies at that height, let the water acquire residence in the clouds. In general, I could tell you, Yesh Techum laws do apply above 10 Tfachim. But because water is absorbed in the clouds, it is not considered to be in existence yet at the start of Yom Tov, and it therefore did not acquire any residence. We'll stop here, and God willing, we'll continue tomorrow.